So I'm gonna have this talk. This is the last talk of today. I hope all of you had a wonderful first day at the Joomla World Conference. So I had to share something about how I came up with this presentation. When I read that Joomla World Conference was going to happen in Rome, I had a dream of me talking on a stage with a dress like Audrey Hepburn and having a talk that was titled Roman Holidays. So now you know how I end up here. And imagine my enthusiasm when Rowan and the people organizing this event call me and say, Chiara, would you like to give a talk? And I say, oh my God. This is a dream that's coming true. Oh, yes, of course. So I was really excited. One important thing that I need to say is that although I would love to give a talk about the movie, it doesn't have nothing to do with the movie itself. In fact, the Roman holiday is just an expedient to talk about ancient Romans and how we can learn, what we can learn from them in terms of organization and leadership. So saying this, I know that, okay, never mind. Let's go this way. So saying this, I will say that I think it's important to introduce myself, although most of you may know me. I've been around the Joomla community for many years, first as a volunteer, then in 2014 I was a brand manager, and today I'm here as a speaker, and I help the community whenever it's needed. I am Italian, so I am an art director. I am the art director of my own company called Until Sunday. Most of you know me about how crazy I am about typography and colors. And today you discovered that I am also a big fan of Audrey Hepburn. So, and this is a poor reproduction of me on the Vespa. This is my husband's Vespa, so we really own the Vespa. So this is me, and the last time I was in Italy, it was this time. I don't know if some Italians were around at this moment. I'm going to refresh the memory. It was a Joomla Day in 2014. It was in Milan, and at the same time, we had a Joomla World Conference going on in Mexico. And I wanted to build the first bridge somehow in that moment, because all these people, there were 1,000 attendees on this event. Can you imagine that? In Joomla Day, in just one day. And I asked the community, the Italian community, to stand up with me and take a selfie so that we could show that the Italian community was there. Even if they were not in Mexico, they were there with their spirits and enthusiasm. So this is the last time I talk in Italy. So you may understand why I'm so excited to be here right now in my own country. So, and because I'm Italian, and I know that my talk is translated from English to Italian, I think it's important to say that probably you may have noticed that Italian is not just about the language, but it's also about the gestures, right? So I think that if you start going around Rome, you need some background about our culture and probably some some advice about the gesture, even if you are engaging in some talks with Italians. So one of the important gestures, one of the most common gestures, is the one you see here, and I try to perform it here on the stage, and which is this one, right? Everybody knows this gesture. So what does it mean? It means what you want. You can use even one hand, or you can use two hands in this way. So to perform this gesture, you have to close your hand like a cone upward and move the hands even motionless, so keep it this way, or you move it. Depending on your impatience, you do it this way. What do you want? Cosa vuoi? This is the way how Italians talk, okay? So, and you have to be careful of the face. If they're like this, they're really angry. If they are like this, what do you want? They're more relaxed. So this is one gesture that I think you need to keep in mind if you go on if you have a walk around Rome. A second gesture that you may find really useful to know, it's about the verb stealing. So if you start engaging about politics with Italians, they may come out with some strange gestures and expression. One of these could be the stealing gesture. It's not really all the politicians in Italy steal, but it's a nice gesture that I want to show you because it's not really common. And it's really difficult to perform. So you need to hold your hand out, and then you start closing slowly, like playing the harp, the hand. So you do this. This is the way. The thumb needs to stay outside. It's like playing the gesture. Yeah, this is the way. Okay, so this means steal. The last gesture that I want you to learn is about how Italians express approval. You may say, okay, but this is not the way. We actually have this sign and then we turn it 45 degrees this way. So if you go in a restaurant and you want to express that you like something, you do this, perfetto. Or you can do this, perfetto. Okay? So this is our basic gesture that I'm sure you're going to use it or see people using it around. So now you know the basics. So now you're ready to go around Rome, and I'm going to ask you to have a trip with me in the Eternal City. So you may wonder, why Rome? After all, the empire fell. So what am I going to learn from it? Well, I would like to invite you to see Rome from a completely different perspective, which is how such a big empire managed to last for so many centuries and leave to us, all of us, even today, such a big legacy. So, and this is about the community. This is about how such a big community like the empire could survive. And I'm going to try during this talk to make you think how and what we can learn as a Joomla community, as an open source community, or as a big business, if you own one, what you can learn from the ancient Roman. So we're going to have a tour, and the tour will start by entering Rome from the Appia Way. Then we stop at the Imperial Forum for a long walk until the Colosseum. Then we go back and we go in Piazza della Rotonda to admire the Pantheon architecture. And we finish our talk and our tour at the Ara Pacis. So are you ready for this tour around Rome? Okay, so hop on my Vespa and let's start. So, the Appia Way was the ancient route. It was called the Regina Viarium, the queen of all the roads. And this was the way to enter. The first road was built by the Romans to enter into the city. It was strategically built to create a kind of connection between Rome, the city, and the small provinces around it. So Rome at that time, when the road was built, it was such a small province, but they understood that if they wanted to expand, they need to build a strong network, a strong communication. And they understood that many centuries ago, where there were no internet, no emails, no phones. So imagine how they were going to conquer, and the first thing they were doing was building infrastructure. So giving to these people the way to communicate back with Rome, the city, the capital. And in the course of 700 centuries, they built something like 50,000 miles of paved highway. So to give you an idea, with those roads, you can encircle the globe. So that was, and it was many centuries ago. So Roman understood that if they wanted to keep everybody's expectation in sight, and they wanted to keep everybody focused, they need to have a fast communication, an efficient way to communicate with these people. In fact, the provinces knew that if they were attacked or invaded by barbarians, the Roman troops were able to answer to that really fast. Of course, we need to think about the time and the context in there. So fast means probably even 2-3 days, but that was the way. And this is how the Roman Empire started to build and spread everywhere. So a community like Joomla needs a network, an efficient way to communicate, an efficient way to keep everybody on focus. One important thing that the Romans thought about it was to create a map of their growth. That means they had the list of all the destinations that was continuously updated anytime a new territory was conquered and a new road was built. More or less how we do with documentation, with press releases, we inform people what's going on in our community. This was a way not only to help the troops and the merchants to know about new routes, but it was a way to keep everybody updated on what was going on in the empire. So when we press so much about to have people and documenting our releases or our work or way of working, we need to understand this is part of the way we want to communicate in a community that is so wide and large. So once we are inside the Rome as the old city, we are going to work into via the Fori Imperiali. This is a beautiful road, and it was even more magnificent in the time when Rome was an empire. The Forum was a place where the Romans could meet. It was a social and cultural place where all the main discussions were were happening, and where the Senate was, where all the high-ranking aristocrats could come and have a say about the things going on in the city and all in the empire. So it was a communal focus point for all the people who were at the leadership. And not only, merchants could go there, citizens could reach the place to make announcements and proclamations. There was also the Via Sacra, the sacred route, which was a place for celebration whenever Rome was winning wars. So the one important thing that we need to say about the Imperial Forum, it's about how huge and beautiful it was. Unfortunately, what you will see today are just ruins. But in the past, it was something amazing. Every emperor were to show the power and and how big the empire was building monuments dedicated to himself or to a specific god for protection of the city and of the empire itself. And I want you to imagine the Romans coming from far away and walking inside this imperial forum. I think they had some kind of, they were really proud to be inside this place. But most of all, they were proud to be part of that community, of such a strong and empire like the Roman ones. They didn't have other competitors, so they had a reason to be proud of being citizen of Rome. So the Roman Empire is the Imperial Forum is an example of how having emblems like our logo, the T-shirts, all these little things are important for building a sense of belonging, a sense of community, because it's what makes us proud. Our logo is what makes us proud. Also, the heart is part of it. So this is why when I was a brand manager, I was pressing so much to have symbols, to have everything in place, so that everybody could communicate well the spirit of the community in a way that everybody in the community could be proud of. So a place for discussion and a place where citizens and the community could feel proud to belong. So at the end of the forum, we are going to meet this huge monument that you may know, which today and still many of you is the main destination of Rome and the symbol of Rome itself, so the Colosseum. So you may wonder about the story of this place, and you may say, Chiara, well, you know, there were atrocities happening in this place, so why are you bringing this monument in here? But I want you to think not about what was happening inside, but I want you to think about the reason and why it was built. So we need to go back many centuries, not just many centuries back in time. So when Nero was the emperor, and he was actually the last emperor of his dynasty, and he suicided, and he left the empire in complete decadence. And the empire was completely invaded by, they had many problems. Mostly there were a lot of civil wars going on. The next generation of emperors was the Flavian emperors, the Flavian dynasty, and there were just 4 emperors coming after Nero. So they took this empire completely in decadence, and they're trying to reestablish public welfare and the power to the Senate that was there, and during Nero was completely neglected. And as a gift to the citizen, for their hard work, for their passion, let's say, for suffering during that time, they built these monuments. It was a gift to the emperors, to the citizen, a place where they could have fun, and where citizens could have some kind of way to forget about the real problems, or to think about the real problems in a different perspective. So, with time, the Colosseum became a place where sponsors, influencers could join and actually give money, not only to the city, but also to promote these events. And one important thing that was happening, that because everybody was happy, attending, everybody was like excited. More or less like you were excited to come here at the Joomla World Conference, like waiting these days, the time you were encountered all together again. So the Romans were experiencing this kind of spirit, the excitement to have 100 days of game going on in the city, and citizens from all over the world were meeting in there. So it was giving this positive energy. They were bringing back into their city. So I think you understand the analogy I'm trying to find here. So imagine this event, the Joomla World Conference, where we are now. So it's a similar thing it was happening for the Romans, right? When we come on these places, in places like events, like the Beyond, the Joomla World Conference, the Joomla Days that we have every month. I mean, Joomla Days, sometimes they happen every month in different places of the world. It's a way not only for discussing or learning, but it's a place to actually meet and experience the community as it is, like people. We have family, we have hobbies. So for a while, we forgot that we are the developers, we are the marketing team. We experience people for what they are. So they're happy people, they had something, we listen to their problems, or we listen to their achievements, and how actually it's a way to sharpen our skills because we learn about them, and it's a way to compare our business with others' business in the field. And of course, we have sponsors. Sponsors make this happen, and of course, in exchange of visibility. But for the sponsor, it's a way to actually get in contact with the community, listen to them, understand what the community needs, or what are their complaints, or even how they can improve their application extension products for the community. And the last thing is that when we go back home after all these 3 days, our spirits is completely changed. We may come here with complaints, why this didn't happen, I would like to have this and that, but the spirit when we are back into our places, there is a kind of inspiration, motivation that comes out anytime we have events like this one today. So, we need to leave the Pantheon, the Colosseum on our back, and then go toward Piazza della Rotonda. Unfortunately, the Pantheon, the Colosseum, you will see it was it's just a ruin of what it was. But you will really surprised about the beauty of this architecture. And you will be so surprised that you will ask yourself how it managed so many centuries and to survive for so many centuries, and that you will think that it's ageless, like somebody built it yesterday, or I don't know, few centuries ago. And actually, this is not the case. This is an ancient temple, today transformed into a church. And it's an example of the beautiful architecture, the beauty of Roman architecture. What the Romans knew from the first time, it was that the empire, they built because they knew that the empire would never die. That was the way they were building. They built to stay and last. Another important thing about the dome, the Pantheon, is that when you enter inside, if you haven't visited, there is a beautiful dome on top with an oculus, a little hole. This is, even today, is the only unsupported dome that exists. Architects from everywhere in the world come and study how the Romans managed to create such a dome. They studied it. Even today, they're trying to understand what happened, what are the things behind, what are the secrets behind this architecture. It's like a miracle for most of them. And this is why I'm bringing this architecture here, the Pantheon, the monument, because it's not just that they built to last, but they also try to create, to inspire and motivate generation ahead. And even today, if you go in London, New York, wherever you come from, you may see columns, arch, and things that are just a reproduction of this excellent architecture. And one last thing that is important, the Romans didn't start big. They start small. And in one small step, slowly, they were able to build something like an empire. What I want to say that a small change in their way of building brought this to us. And this small change was the concrete. Today we give it for granted, but actually it's not. At least for the Romans it wasn't, but this changed completely the way they were building. So this little change, it was a huge change in scale for the Romans. And it brought many monuments, and not only roads and everything, they're still lasting today. If you go up your way, it's still intact, so you can see that. So again, when you go home, when you start writing your code, maybe for the Joomla 4 or anything you create, whatever is a design, whatever is just a string of code that's gonna help someone else to develop or create new ideas. This is the way you need to think your contribution in a community, like an open source community. Whatever you do, start small. If you cannot contribute for long, just give something like a trampoline for giving to other people the tools to develop other ideas based on your little suggestion, little insight. This is after all, the open source way of thinking, right? This is the spirit of the open source. So build to last, build to motivate, and start small, but think always big in a way that someone else can take your ideas and make them for others, available, accessible for others. Our last stop is going to be at the Arapaches. This altar, this is a beautiful monument that was on the northeastern part of Campus Martius, but that today is well preserved in a museum. So the Arapaches was built during a really specific moment of the Roman Empire. It was the moment called the Pax Romana. Pax means peace, so the Roman peace. And the main author of this moment was Augustus, to whom this monument is dedicated. He was coming back from 2 years of wars in Spain, and after his work in the sacred route, the Senate decided to dedicate to him this monument. That it was built to talk about how important is stability, peace in a large empire. So Augustus was the emperor, the first emperor of Rome. And he did a really skillful campaign trying to convince all the Romans that war was bad. The war is not helping. Fighting each other, fighting for conquering, it was not good. The Romans need stability. They need peace. And imagine that Romans were all about wars. This is how they conquered and expanded. So this was completely new to them. So he did a really skillful campaign and propaganda based on something really important called values. And in Latin, these values were called mos maiorum. There were 5, and he believed, and I'm going to list them to you, but what I want to say, and the reason why he brought them back, it was because he believed that a celebration of these values were not just a celebration, it was not making you a good person, a good man, but it was going to make good to the community, to the emperor himself. So he wanted that Romans could bring back these values and impersonate them, and trying to bring peace, stability, and success inside the empire. So I'm going now, at this point of this presentation, to ask you to see as a volunteer, as a leader, as a probably leader of a business. You don't have to be open source leader, or if you have any business and you're working with other people, if you actually own this value, if you actually are able to, or you have this value, or you celebrate this value wherever you are. So let's start with the first one, which is fides. So fides is about loyalty, it's about trustworthy, it's about confidence. But in a community like us, it's about reliability and credibility. Can people trust in you? Can people believe in you, in your skill, or what you say? Are you going to do it? Or are you going to leave them in the middle of nowhere? So in a community like us, this is one important value that we need to cultivate. The second value that Augustus was celebrating, it was pietas. Pietas is not pity, it's not mercy. It's about the relationship you're able to build with the other individuals in your community. It's about your manners in public. It's about the way you create relationship in a beautiful and good way with other people inside your community. The third one, which is also really important, is majestas. That if you are a leader, if you are at the head of a company, if you are heading a team, or you're leader of a team, it means that you need to lead and govern in a way that you make everybody happy to belong to that community. But if you are a volunteer, if you're a simple employee, it means that you're doing all your best to help the company, the community, to actually raise and grow. And this is related to virtus, which comes from the word vir, which means man, but it means mostly to have the skills of a man. That means mostly altruism and generosity, kindness. And it means that if you know and if you have skills, you put them at the service of the community. Even if they are just small skills and you think they're not useful, but you think you know how to do that, this is the way you can share it with the others. So this is virtus. And then the fifth one, which is gravitas, which I personally think, and I struggle myself with that a lot, is the most difficult one. And it's about self-control. It's about presence. It's about charisma. It's your aura. It's about the way you take decisions. It's about how you are able to lead others, leaving your passion behind you. It's a way to say, it answers a specific question. It is about, can you lead yourself before leading others? So that were the 5 important values that today we could call them as a culture code of a company or a community or a small organization. And they were important, and this was what made Rome great at that time for 200 years. Can you imagine that? I mean, Joomla is just not even 20, so it's a lot of years ahead, okay? So my question to you, and the way I want you to see this talk, is that whenever you go and whenever you start, in these days we're going to have the Joomla in action, and we are going to have many contributors that wants to participate to this moment. And I want you to think about the values I taught today. I want you to think how your skills, your help could really help us build something bigger. And I want you to think how your small contribution, if it's just today, is going to make a big change in the community. It's like a little drop in this ocean of people. And Augustus, the emperor, said that I found Rome a city of bricks and left it a city of marble. He said that when he was actually leaving the empire to be governed. So, and today here, we are called to build a bridge. And I'm asking you, let's build it in marble. Thank you.